Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Linda Marone, Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Data Conversion Laboratory, and I will be your moderator today. Before we get started though, I have a couple of housekeeping items. We will be allowing a time at the end of the webinar for questions and answers, so please write yours in the chat area as they come to mind. If we don't have time to answer all, however, we will make them available on our website. And with that, I would like to go ahead and begin. For those of you who are not familiar with DCL, we convert and organize content to create electronic documents, populate databases, publish on the web, and basically get it ready for tomorrow's technology. DCL services help you refine your document conversion strategy, identify document redundancy, extract metadata, and transform legacy and future documents for real needs today and in the future. DCL serves a very broad client base and spans all industries. This morning we are thrilled to have Amber Swope from DITA Strategies with us. Amber is an internationally recognized expert on DITA with more than 20 years of experience in the information development field. She specializes in helping teams design and implement unified content development environments for XML content. These environments provide custom integrated support for authoring, storing, publishing, and localizing content, leading to overall improved efficiency and reduced costs. In addition to co-authoring the DITA maturity model, Amber has authored numerous papers and articles on information design development and architecture and presented at leading industry conferences. Amber holds a master's in technical and professional writing and a certificate in computer technical writing from Northeastern University. Our session today, entitled DITA XML as a neutral content source for educational publishers. Because it is no longer enough to only provide a printed book to teach a skill, educational publishers need to create their content in a neutral XML source that supports multi-channel content delivery. An XML architecture separates the content from its delivery and enables you to deliver a range of content in a variety of formats. This session will focus on DITA, which breaks content into topics by content type, including learning and training content, and can be applied to many different publishing specifications. Without further ado, welcome Amber and enjoy the webinar.
Hi there. Thanks, Linda. I'm very honored and pleased to be able to speak with you today. I do have to give you a disclaimer that I am recovering from a bit of a cold, so if I clear my throat or cough, my apologies in advance. So we're going to start off really quickly with a poll so that we can get a sense of what kind of challenges your teams are trying to address at this time. And I believe that the poll is open. And while you are answering, I'm going to get started. So, first question is, why do publishers need to change their business practices? Well, the information landscape has radically changed in the past few years, and learners' expectations of how they interact with your content have changed with it. It's no longer enough to simply provide a printed book to teach a skill. Instead, learners expect to receive a wide range of content in a variety of formats. They want printed books, they want eBooks, they want dynamic learning portals, they want content delivered via mobile applications, they want interactivity. And to meet these changing learner needs, educational publishers must convert their content to a neutral source that supports multi-channel content delivery. XML is that source. I believe that wholeheartedly. In terms of the fact that it is the most neutral technology source out there today. And we're going to talk about why the Darwin Information Typing Architecture is the recommended architecture for use with XML in publishing. So what's wrong with your current source, you say? Well, there are some limitations. most of the time your content has been created for the format in which it is expected to be delivered. This means that there is no separation between the content and its delivery. And to give us a little bit more context, I'm going to do a case study. In 2002, what did you have to create? Well, probably you just had to create deliverables that were books. And chances are you used InDesign or some other PDF-specific layout control tool that allowed you to design a beautiful book. And that's what you sold. And you probably included your math, if you have math, for teaching science or math or as images. And if you need to reuse any information, you're going to reuse the whole thing. You might have actually do an online PDF, but not many folks were. And so your products, if you look at the list, there you have a wide range of products. You have subject books, that they could be textbooks, they for teaching literacy, they could be reading text. You have class handbooks, you have teacher guides, you might have printed flashcards, you might have assessment handbooks, otherwise known as tests or quizzes that could be separate documents, or they could have been with the other materials. And you might, like I said, have an online PDF for a minimal number of your products. Well, let's move forward 10 years, and we're being asked for something completely different. And so we're at 2012. The results of the poll show that 83% of you produce print, 69% of you produce eBooks, 67% produce online learning, 47% are delivering content in mobile apps, and 28% have other. So that's a really big change from what we just talked about from 10 years ago. So as an educational publisher, you're creating at least, in this case, I only had some of those on there. You definitely still have your print. We know that. That's what people are, that's the baseline. But in addition to the print, we have all the XHTML that you need for your online delivery in your EPUBs. You're probably still including your math as images, simply because it's very industry standard. And you're trying to reuse content as not only a whole deliverable, but as a subset. So in some cases, you're trying to have information that appears in the teacher guide, also appear in the handbook. The flashcard information might also be a glossary in the back of a subject book. So you're trying to do more with your content. Your products, you still have the same list of printed deliverables. Isn't that amazing that that hasn't gone away? Instead, you have more. You need to do PDFs of books, maybe for CD with audio. You have EPUBs on your website. You have interactive display of your books on your website that might have assessment, that you have tracked testing, that when someone takes a test, you keep track of it for them, and that you can say, oh, you got these 3 questions wrong, you need to go and look at this other material. You might have assessment or glossary content that is delivered via mobile app. That is a very different landscape from what you were asked to do 10 years ago. So, so this is what you're currently delivering. That poll is now open. All right, so let's look forward, and of course I didn't quite do 10 years. What are you going to be asked to produce 10 years from now? Well, as an educational publisher, you're going to hopefully be creating your content in reusable units with XML. You would then be able to have a transform that could either take your content directly to PDF, or if you still need to have that layout and control, you can transform into InDesign. You're going to have transforms that take your XML content and generate XHTML that is designed and optimized for your online deliverables and your EPUBs. You can have a transform that delivers your XML if you have an LMS. Notice that what we're seeing is that it's a transform. You're starting from something neutral that's in small reusable units. You create your deliverable and you generate it. And this means that instead of having to start in one technology and then convert everything, you're starting in a neutral technology and generating what you need from it. One of the other options you might consider is including your math as XML. One of the benefits of this is that if you want to have the math be interoperable, I have folks that need to be able to have their equations be able to have individual items in the equation be selectable. You can do that in XML. And you can reuse your content any way you need to. You can reuse it at the word or phrase level. You can reuse it at the paragraph level. You can reuse it at an entire page or a unit level. You could reuse whole chapters. You could reuse entire books. And this gives you so much more flexibility. I didn't bother going through listing all the printed materials that we could still expect to have. I honestly believe that you still will be asked to be doing printed deliverables in 10 years. I know some folks may say that that's not realistic, but there are those folks that are considered Luddites like myself who we like a printed book. But in addition, we're going to expect everything you're being asked to do for 2012, interactive web display, interactive mobile apps. Who knows? Maybe we're going to have interactive 3D holographic display. It could be anything. We can't see the future because if we could, we'd all be playing the lottery and we'd be making lots of money and not have to work, right? So the results of our poll are that you're currently delivering print, ebook, 49% ebook, 56% online learning, 31% mobile apps, and then you have the 33% for others. So in the difference between the two polls, print hasn't changed. You need to be doing ebook. More folks are being asked to do online learning, and you have the mobile apps. So we're going to move along. I think that the case study should have shown why you need to change out of a technology-specific source format and move into XML. This is to allow you to be able to reuse your content or future enable it for whatever deliverables your customers say they want. So, for example, who envisioned EPUBs 5 years ago? I personally chuckled when Steve Jobs said, oh, the iPad's going to change everything. Well, guess who owns an iPad and guess who, it has changed everything for? Me. And, I am just one of many types of learners out there. If you separate your content from your delivery now, then you do not have to try and predict the future. You will simply be ready for it because your content will be future enabled so that it is in smaller reusable units that you can combine to meet whatever deliverable challenges that your changing learners need. So I'm going to step back really quickly and talk a little bit about what is DITA. DITA stands for the Darwin Information Typing Architecture. This is a modular XML framework. The Darwin stands for, of course, the premier scientist, and that DITA provides a mechanism for extension or evolution to meet your content needs. Information typing indicates that DITA was designed to identify the type of information at the module or at the topic level. So, for instance, it's not just a file. The type of file indicates the type of content. If it is a question, it's an assessment topic. If it is a learning objective, if the content contains learning objectives, then it's a learning overview topic. It's not simply untagged or unidentified units of content. Each piece of content is structured by the type of information that it is. And it's an architecture. DITA is an XML content model that provides mechanisms for organizing content. I need to be very clear. This is not a tool, nor is it an application. It is an architecture. And that means that there are many different ways to use it, and there are many different tools that support it. I have seen and helped DITA be implemented by universities, publishers, technology companies, there's automobile companies, financial services companies. XML is a neutral source. and therefore it is being adopted by people worldwide that have content, because they also need to have new and different deliverables that they weren't previously being asked to produce. Why XML for content? Well, rather than applying a style such as bold to a phrase to indicate that it's a citation, instead you can apply the semantic identification with the cite element, and that allows you to be able to control the style and the formatting for that text for each deliverable output. So for example, if you have a reference to another document, if you want it to, in print, be presented as italics, you have a style sheet for your print transform that presents the citation as italics. You can take that same topic and process it with a different transform, maybe for online content, that instead presents that same text in quotation marks. There's no difference in the source, because you've, instead of applying the format that you would then have to go and change for the different output types, you instead identify what it is. A learning example would be that a learning objective can be identified as a learning objective, and then the appropriate formatting can be applied to the teacher's guide, and that might be different than how that exact same text is presented in the student handbook. And another example might be a glossary term. A glossary term would be identified as a term, and perhaps in a printed glossary be presented as bold with a colon and just the definition. The same term could be presented on a printed flashcard or on a mobile app and be presented completely differently with different size font, different styling, a totally different experience for the learner that is optimized for the deliverable output without any changes to your source. That is what makes DITA a neutral, an XML a neutral source, in that it allows you to, instead of having to go through conversion, simply apply the formatting upon the generation of the deliverable. You can also choose and what that does is it allows you to choose the best tools for your audience in terms of being able to say, oh, well, we have different types of authors. We have internal authors versus we have external authors, and some of them are more sophisticated. Because DITA is an architecture, you can have one tool set that the content contributor might provide. So for instance, if you're doing graduate level standardized test support, you might hire someone to write your chemistry information. Well, they might not know your internal tool set. Well, they don't have to. You can have any tool that supports DITA that they could use. They give you your source. You can open it in your tool set that might be a lot more sophisticated for doing the type of processing that you need. And that's one of the benefits of being in an architecture instead of a tool-specific support. One note I need to tell you, though, DITA is one of many standards for XML. There are other ones out there, such as QTI, DocBook, S1000D. They all have their strengths and their uses. For instance, DocBook is designed for books and is very book-oriented. As we've shown, you are going to be producing a lot more than books, so that's why I would recommend DITA over DocBook. QTI is a format that is used as an interoperability format for learning management systems, so it's a great output format, but not a good source format. So I use the word transform specifically because you have your neutral source, you have it sitting in your repository. In order to generate your output, you run it through a processor that transforms it. It applies this processing that then applies a style sheet and renders the specific deliverable. The good news is that if you want a book, then you generate a transform that applies the proper formatting and styles that you need for the PDF. If you need a collection of questions that need to be generated in QTI, you can take the exact same assessment or questions that you presented in that book, run a different transform, and generate QTI that then can be served by your LMS. If you need to present a set of information through a mobile app. Again, a different transform. You can generate the flavor of XML or XHTML that the mobile app requires. And there's no change to your source. We want to get you out of the conversion business and into the transform business. So what this allows you to do is to meet your new learner needs. So we have a set of content. You have invested a lot of money into the content set that you have right now that you are delivering primarily through print media. We want you to be able to unlock that and be able to reuse it for all these different formats that your learners are asking for. You can have the printed, you can have the online, you can have the assessment, you can via the LMS. You can do audio CDs because it's just another output format. Then you have a voiceover that you track to it. One of my favorite things is the idea of having online flashcards via mobile apps. As a person who I like learning memory exercises. And as a kid, I loved flashcards. Well, I want to be able to sit at the bus, and if I'm practicing for a test, I want to have 10 new terms downloaded to my mobile app every morning that I can test myself on while I'm sitting there. You have that content now. We need to help you get it so that you can reuse it to deliver and meet all of these different requests from your users. So we're going to do another poll really quickly. What is your experience with XML, and in particular with DITA? And if you could answer that, while I continue to keep talking. All right. DITA is, as I said, an architecture. It was designed by IBM, contributed as an open source architecture to OASIS. It is not designed for any specific industry, not the least of which, content publishing. On the other hand, it's all about creating a neutral source and being able to give you flexibility in delivery. So we're going to walk through why I believe that DITA is a great source format for you, content source for you to use. Really quickly, we'll talk about the poll results. With the experience of DITA, 23%, this might be the first time you've ever heard what it is. 38% to have some experience, which could be anything from I know what the letters mean to I have actually worked with it. 15% are fairly experienced, and 23% are very well experienced. So I'm expecting that the very well experienced folks are going to keep me honest, and that maybe you'll be doing the next webinar. So the whole purpose of DITA being named after Darwin was the idea that it can evolve to meet your needs. And the term that is used for this is specialization. And what specialization allows you to do is to extend the base architecture to meet your content needs. You can do this to create a single element. So, for instance, I've had with some publishing teams, they need to have a call out or a sidebar. Well, that wasn't part of the original content model. We extended the model to enable folks to have, those items that need to appear in the margin, or they may be appear within the body of the text but formatted differently. Well, we just extended it and created another element. I've worked with some teams that need to have a domain-specific framework. Well, in this case, there are lots of users out there of DITA who said, wow, we want to be able to reuse our content, not just for our main usage, but we also need to be able to adapt it for learning and training. And so there is a whole set of specializations, which I'll cover in a few moments, for learning and training. I also see people do industry-specific frameworks, extensions, such as insurance. There's a whole set of nomenclature in the insurance industry that, of course, is not part of the out-of-the-box standard, and we simply extended it so that there isn't semantic identifiers for things like policy numbers and policy names and all the information that goes around supporting the HIPAA privacy. They needed to have advanced processing against that information, so we were able to semantically identify it through an extension of the spec, and we did this through specialization. One of the key items with DITA is that it has flexible units. The DITA content structure is primarily organized around topics, and topics are discrete units of information that cover a specific subject or idea. This does not mean that they are one sentence. That's too short usually. We need to cover it so that it is useful. Yes, you could technically put an entire book or entire chapter into one topic, but that doesn't give you any flexibility on the reuse. So when people say, well, how much content should go into a topic? Well, that really depends upon your content and the structure. I have folks that make their content very rigorously segregated into smaller units because they want a lot of flexibility, and I have some folks that say, well, this could be parsed a little smaller, but we're going to keep it a little bit larger units until we have a business need to parse it to be something smaller. So for books, topics usually map to heading levels, such as one topic for each A or level 1 head, another topic for each B or level 2 head, and the C or level 3 heads might be a separate topic, or they could be sections within that B level topic. Again, it's an architecture. The good news is that it's an architecture, you have lots of flexibility. The bad news is it's an architecture, and you have to make choices. For flashcards, each card would be a separate topic. And for glossaries, each term and all its associated information would be defined as a single topic. Now, you might be thinking, wow, when I have a list of glossary items in a book, all I have is the term and definition. I don't want all the other information that might be there, such as pronunciation, usage, if there's a picture, the type part of speech. I don't want all that to appear. Well, because you're defining the source and not the deliverable, your glossary topic would have all the information about the glossary term in it, and the transform would indicate what subset of the elements you would present in any given deliverable. So you could generate a book with an alphabetized list of abbreviations and terms from the same glossary topics that also you generate your flashcards that on the front have the term, the pronunciation, and maybe the part of speech, and on the back of the card has the definition, the usage, and maybe a picture. So the topic is where you put your content, and again, it would be typed. So I refer to a glossary topic. It is a type of topic. A concept topic is a type of topic. A learning topic, there's several different types, and I'll cover those in a moment. You might say, wow, I break all my content down to topics. How do I make a deliverable? Well, you organize the topics into collections of your XML files with a file called a map. You use maps to provide the structure and the hierarchy for each of the deliverables. In some cases, I see folks reuse the same map for multiple deliverables. So for instance, if you have a book, you have a map potentially that organizes the entire book, and then you may have submaps that organize a part or a chapter. If you want to generate the exact same content for a printed book and perhaps its corresponding online deliverable of an online PDF or an EPUB, you could use the exact same map with all the exact same content in the topics and simply run a different transform and get the output you need for both deliverables. For a set of flashcards, well, it's not a book, so you would simply use a map that would indicate here are all the topics to include, and you run the transform, and you could have it be printed as physical flashcards. It could be presented in an interactive online display. Pardon my dogs, I think the mailman is here. And for glossaries, you can create a map of terms that you want to include and transform to generate only the subset of information you need for that deliverable. Like as I said, you could have an alphabetized list of entries and terms at the back of a book, and then you could also have it. Hold on, please. All right. My apologies. Needless to say, no one has really ever tried to break into our home. So I think I was just finishing up on the maps and topics. So information types. I keep mentioning that DITA is a typed architecture that has the topics that are specialized to provide the ideal structure for each type. For example, a glossary item, at a minimum, you have a term and a definition. So therefore, the glossary topic type provides an element called term, gloss term, and an element called gloss definition. For subject matter text, you would probably, or most often, use concept topics where you have a title and then text, perhaps lists, some tables, some images. For learning materials, I'll talk about the structure that's available. The maps organize your topics into deliverables. You can use the standard DITA map for organizing chapters or non-book-like deliverables. And then there's a specialized type of map called a book map that is designed to provide the structure that you need for a book. It includes book metadata such as ISBN, copyright, other types of metadata. And it has the structural elements such as a preface, the notices, chapters, appendices. All of these are semantically identified so that your transform can process them appropriately for each of your deliverable outputs. So our goal here is to be able to reuse your content in multiple ways. Your learners have said, we want more than printed books. And you go, wow, okay, I know we have to deliver more. For learning content, there's already a host of deliverables that you may or may not need to deliver. Some folks have course plans. If you're providing an entire course or teaching materials, there might be course plans, syllabus, other course materials such as handouts and visual aids. You have your subject text, your teacher guides, your other student materials. They have handbooks. You have to do some assessment with quizzes and tests. And you might have mobile application content for memory drills. If we go through this, for the course plan, you would use learning and training plan topics and organize them into the proper hierarchy with a DITA learning map and generate the PDF. For the syllabus, you can use learning overview and content topics, organize them into the proper hierarchy with a learning map, and generate the PDF if you're printing, or XHTML files if you're doing online display. For the course materials, you can use the learning and training overview, content, summary, and assessment topics, along with additional concept topics. Again, you organize them in the proper hierarchy with a learning map for each module, or you can do it at the class level and generate PDF, XHTML, or XML if you need it for an LMS. The instructor guide, you can use the same topics from the course materials. You could apply a filter to include instructor-only content so that the instructor has text or script information and generate whatever deliverable output you need. The student materials, you could use the same map with the same topics as the instructor guide, applied a different filter that would effectively include only the information that the students should see, so not the teacher information, and again, generate the deliverables. For your assessment, your quizzes and tests, you would use the learning and training assessment topics. You would organize them into a proper hierarchy and deliver either a quiz or a test via whatever mechanism you needed. And for the mobile app content, you would use glossary topics. And again, you'd organize them with a map, and then you generate them for your presentation. I think you probably saw some repetition there. The process is you author your topics, you organize them with your map, You apply filters if you need them, and generate your output. I'm going to quickly give you an overview of the learning and training support that comes out of the box with DITA. This is information that was developed, or support that was developed in the DITA 1.2 spec, and it is a good starting point. It will not have everything that you need. One of the reasons it was included in the base spec was that learning and training has a fairly standardized structure. If you tell me you're going to give me a syllabus, I have a very clear expectation of what I would expect to see in the syllabus. If I'm doing instructor-led training and you provide me with an instructor guide, I have a very clear understanding of what I expect to be in an instructor guide. If you tell me you're going to give me a test, I would expect that there would be some type of an assessment and that there would be an indication of a correct or incorrect answer, and then some explanation after I've taken it. So the out-of-the-box support provides a learning map for organizing the learning content into deliverables, the learning plan topic that allows you to present the information about to organize the information when you're actually planning the deliverables, the overview topic for identifying the learning objectives as well as prerequisites, intended audience, etc. The learning content, this is the meat of the course, all the content that you need to provide, and this, again, could have it could be a lot of concept topics. It could be the information that you have in other deliverables that you're repackaging as either an instructor-led or an online self-paced interactive learning experience. The summary topic provides the summary of what the learning objectives were that were covered, and assessment topics present the testing, the ability to assess whether or not your learner has actually understood and learned the information. And out of the box, DITA supports open question, single select, multiple select, matching, sequence, true, false, and hotspot interactions. And you can present them either as a single question or in collections that can be organized by sections or subsections and tests. Assessment spans different levels of complexity. You might have a single question. You might have 10 questions at the end of a chapter that's a quiz, or you might, and that spans all the way up to the standardized tests that you see with the GRE or NCLEX-RN or SAT. So really quickly, the learning map, it organizes your content into modules or lessons. I see some folks do one large map and other folks say, no, we're going to have each module be separate. And a learning book map organizes all of your content together for printing as a book. The learning plan topic includes semantically identified elements for your project, including the client, the plan title, the course ID, modification dates, delivery dates. It has semantically identified elements for needs analysis, gap analysis, the type of intervention, what kind of learning strategy you're going to use, as well as for technical information, such as what type of LMS are you going to deliver this as, other handouts, other classroom physical requirements, other WC3 standards compliance, what kind of interactive players are you planning to use for displaying the information, what viewers, resolution, file sizes, etc. The learning overview topic is in contrast a lot less complex. It simply identifies the learning objectives as well as the prerequisites, duration, and the intended audience of the information. The content topic, this is where you have the actual information. Most folks identify the, this is here's what we have. This is what you're going to have. And the challenge, here's what you're trying to accomplish, and then the actual instruction. And the actual instruction, like I said, a lot of times I see folks reuse information. So if you have a textbook and you are creating the supporting course materials, you may reuse individual paragraphs or entire units of the textbook in the course materials. The summary topic provides content for what learning objectives were covered, and then guidance for continued learning. That would be your next steps and resources. And the assessment. I breezed through those other ones, but I really want to talk a bit more about the assessment. The assessment is, again, like I said, you have the ability to test what's going on in here, and that is that interaction bullet right there. In the interaction, you can have, as I indicated, open questions. So if you have an essay question or you have any type of an open question, so for instance, if you're asking a math question, what is 2 plus 3? And the test taker has to actually type in 5 or write in 5. That would be an open question. Single select, we've all seen these. There's a list of options, and only one of them is the correct answer. Multiple select, there's multiple options. More than one of them can be selected. Matching has a table-like format that, the number 1 item might map to the letter J item. Sequence is where you have a list of items that you have to reorder. True, false is your classic Boolean. You have a statement and the learner indicates yes or no. And hotspot interactions are where you have a picture and the user needs to select a hotspot. You can't see me doing the little rabbit ear quotes in the air here. And that would indicate whether or not they, for instance, if I'm teaching anatomy and there's a picture of a knee and I have to identify a specific item in the knee, I would be able to interactively click on it, and that would say, yes, you picked the kneecap. And if they didn't, then we would know. And I have worked with some teams, and we've extended these question types to include others, including things like sort. So we're going to do our last poll and change gears a little bit. How critical would you think that adopting XML is for the future of your organization's content? And I'm going to wait for a moment, and I want to see what folks say about this. And I don't want to have dead air, so I'll talk for a moment. But like I said, the learning and training information is a good place to start. I have folks that have extended it, like I said, for additional information, such as different question types that were not there out of the box. And it is not, like I said, this is why the Darwin Information Typing Architecture, in that you have the ability to be able to extend the architecture to meet your needs. It looks like we have about 74% of folks have voted, and I haven't seen that change. So perhaps we could close the poll. All right, so 25 folks said it's somewhat important, 75% said it's critically important, and no one said that it's not at all important. All right, well, if you had come back and said it's not at all important, then I would have failed as a professional communicator, because I can't believe that you're not being asked to do new things for your business that you currently are not able to easily and efficiently do. For folks that say that somewhat, I'm going to walk through and hopefully show you why I do think it's important. And for those who say that it's critically important, then I have succeeded to some extent. So let's talk about books. When I say books, I'm talking about everything from a textbook to subject matter information. So for instance, if you're teaching literacy, if you have a play or reading materials or anything that comes in a book-like format, that's what I'm referring to here. Your current process, if it's a non-XML process, probably looks like the left. The pros of this process is that you can currently optimize for your layout and optimize for a sequentially read book. And that you have layout control. This probably works okay for you if all you're doing is creating a PDF for printing and maybe even for online distribution. The pain really starts when you need to convert that, if it's in this case, InDesign is the example I'm using, source to other formats such as XHTML. The reason is because it is a conversion. And anytime you see the word conversion, I want you to immediately think, oh, that is a lot of extra work, because it is. There's a whole project plan involved with converting things, because it's not simply a line-by-line conversion, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. If, on the other hand, you were in DITA, you would create your content and topics. You would then structure a deliverable. You would have one map maybe for each chapter at a minimum, and then you would have one book map that organizes those chapters into the appropriate order and includes all the metadata that you need for the book. You could generate your PDF for printing, you would generate your PDF for online, and you generate your XHTML for your EPUB. Again, that means that the process is incredibly consistent. There is no conversion here involved. It is simply having a transform developed that allows you to get out the content that you want. For the teacher guide, again, we're seeing that if you need to do a subset of your other information, you might have to create it, or you'd copy and paste. You'd structure the deliverable in InDesign, and you're going to see the pattern on the left does not change. On the right, with DITA, the pro here is that the content would be in a neutral source. You can create a master list of earning objectives and reuse them as part of a DITA referencing feature. You can apply classification scheme to the learning objectives because they're semantically identified. Of course, the con is that with a neutral source, you don't have the total control over your print layout, and you may need to export or transform to InDesign and then tweak if you need beautiful print. But you never have to convert again to get your information out into those other formats. Your memory aids. These could be flashcards that are printed, or they could be mobile or online delivery. The left side is exactly the same. On the DITA side, we'd create your glossary topics, you'd create your maps, and then you would generate. Again, the pro here is that the content's in the neutral source. You can reuse the same topics to generate different subset of the information in every deliverable. You can apply subject classifications to topics such as medical terms, science terms, legal terms, and process against them. On assessments, these are your quizzes and tests. Again, the left side looks the same. The right side, we create your assessment topics, you'd organize them, and again you would generate. The power here is that you can include all of these different types of information in the topics, such as STEM, stimulus, answer options, hints, feedback, correct answers, explanations, and then generate only the STEM, stimulus, and answer option for the test. For the answer guide, you would have that same information plus the correct answer and explanation. If you're delivering via online delivery, you'd be able to programmatically display hints. All that information is available in your XML source. So in summary, if your content is not created and stored in XML, you are locked into the format that you initially created your content in. And that is usually tied to a specific delivery platform. This means that to produce an integrated set of deliverables for distribution across a range of mediums, you must convert your content multiple times using a process that I can tell you from experience is fraught with technical and logistical challenges. And at a certain point, this becomes cost prohibitive. However, if you take the upfront hit, convert to XML, and design your transforms, you can run your content through this system and deliver what your users need when they need them much more efficiently. And in addition, you'll have future-enabled your content for deliverables that we can't even foresee at this point. So that was the full set of content that I had to deliver. I apologize for my dogs interrupting us.
Thank you, Amber. Very informative indeed. We do have some questions that have been submitted. I also have a few that were submitted ahead of time. And so let's get started so that we can cover as many as possible. Jeff submitted a question. The XML XSIT transform graphic design is too complicated, even generic like headers and footers. That is my current barrier. Any hints for me?
Yes, so this is transform development, and I have to tell you that this is pure programming. So you would want someone who knows how to do transform development. The languages that the transforms are written in really depends upon the output type. If you're doing PDF, traditionally most books have been using XSLFO, which I cringe when I ever have to look at that code because it's very complicated. But the folks who do it and do it well can give you exactly what you want out of your output. For online delivery, XSLT is the language that folks are using to write their XHTML transforms, and also usually for the XML output as well. So yes, it is difficult, and I don't want to in any way indicate that this is an easy process. The question is will you continue to pay for using your content every day for the next however long you intend to use it, or do you want to take the investment up front, make the conversion, and then be able to optimize your system? But you will have to give this some thought and get in technical resources that can handle the technical complexity.
Okay, terrific. Anand would like to know, what are DITA's weaknesses and how do you get around them?
I would say that the biggest weakness, and you can't see me doing, again, little air quotes, is that if you need to have absolutely beautiful printing, obviously if you're automatically generating something, your page breaks might not be perfect, etc. I have some publishing clients that actually generate from their neutral source into InDesign and then massage the layout so that they get a beautiful print experience as well as being able to run a transform and get the other output formats that they need. So I would say that if I had to name a weakness, that would be it, in that you might not leave these other tool sets behind, but you would use them differently.
Okay. And Elke would like us to talk a little bit about the level of prep work that should be done before attempting to convert specifically from FrameMaker, which obviously is unstructured.
Yes, conversion. This is, again, not for the faint of heart. If you are in unstructured content, this will be painful. I can promise you that. The more structured your current content is, the easier the conversion process will be. I have worked with many teams. Some teams felt that they had very standard content until they realized that, yeah, they had standard templates, but their authors didn't follow them. And because DITA is organized around topics, which are discrete units, if you have your content and it's written in a linear fashion that says, oh, the following chapter, blah, 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 well, guess what? That needs to come out. And so in many cases, conversion can be a rewrite for some folks. Now, for very standardized content such as assessment questions and things like that, it's consistent. The conversion process can be very straightforward. Same with glossary items. You know, they have a very standard format. It's your textbooks and your free-form, unstructured content that will give you the most challenge. And the reality is that you will need to do a set of cleanup or preparatory tasks. You can either do it prior to conversion. I have one team that is going through their InDesign files and essentially rewriting things and massaging them in InDesign files so that when they do their conversion, A has become a topic, B has become a topic, C has become a section within the B head topic. But they're doing the prep work in InDesign so that goes more smoothly. I have other teams that say, no, we'll just get everything into XML and then we'll fix it. The question is where do you take the pain? The question is not if you take the pain.
And when also.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to plan for this. This is not, I mean, in some cases you need subject matter experts to do the rewrite. So this, you know, is not something that you can necessarily outsource all the way. For more structured content, I would I would obviously recommend that you, if you're in InDesign, have your subject matter experts fix it there, and then have it be converted with a with a conversion set, such as DCL that can then automate that process for you. I don't ever recommend trying to do the cleanup afterwards because your conversion will cost you more.
Most definitely. Thank you. I think we have time for probably one more. In the past, one application, I don't think I mentioned this one. In the past, one application, FrameMaker, Word, RoboHelp, etc., provided text entry, graphic design, formatting, and publishing deliverable. Is there an XML application other than FrameMaker that provides both editing and publishing to multiple deliverables?
Yes. So the environment is that you have different vendors have different features. The DITA the standard comes with the DITA Open Toolkit, which is there for processing. Most authoring tools integrate the DITA Open Toolkit under the covers. And so what you're doing is you're plugging your transform into the toolkit. So all the main vendors for authoring software do this. And if they say they support DITA, that means that they support the DITA Open Toolkit and that you should be able to publish directly from them. If you're using a content repository, which I would suggest you do, given that you're going to have thousands of topic files, many times they will integrate with an editing tool. So you would author, store into the repository, and then generate from the repository. And so almost any vendor that says that they support DITA should be integrating the DITA Open Toolkit. Now, graphics are a different story, and they will always be separate because the graphic itself is not created in XML. You would create your graphic and store it, and then reference that graphic from your XML markup.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, everyone, for attending. This concludes today's broadcast. We will answer all questions that we did not get to this afternoon and make sure that they are available for you. You can access the recorded version from the webinar archive section of dclab.com. Please feel free to join us for our third webinar in the Ask the Expert series on Wednesday, July 25th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We welcome you to attend. And Amber, thank you again. Very, very informative. We will try to plan part 2. It sounds like that will most definitely be advantageous for everyone concerned.
Oh, thank you. It was an honor and a pleasure to speak with you, and I look forward to potentially having the opportunity to do it again.
Thank you. Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone.